Hello, this is Josh Belk with Belk on Business Podcast. Today we're going to talk a little bit about key performance indicators, what's commonly referred to by its acronym KPIs. In the coming weeks, I'm going to actually change that middle P, and we're going to talk about a different type of a KPI. But today I'm going to focus a little bit on key performance indicators at a really high level. What I've been seeing here in recent months working with clients is as they go through and they try to analyze their business is many times they'll work with outside consultants or maybe with their leadership team internally and generate these indicators, these gauges which they look at to see basically how their business is performing. And one mistake that we're seeing is a lot of these individuals have too many of these indicators that they're looking at. And I kind of make the analogy, and I know others have as well, that these indicators are like a dashboard. So if you think about when you're driving a car, you look down occasionally at the dashboard, and you may look down to monitor your speed. You may look down and see, or RPMs, is it where it needs to be? Is the temperature in the car okay? So we kind of just look at these indicators. We look at the gas gauge. Now, some of the indicators we look at more frequently than others. But bottom line, on our dashboard, there aren't a whole lot of indicators that we look at. There are just a few essential indicators that we look at quite frequently. Speed, for example, that's something we monitor very closely. Others, we look at less frequently. What happens sometimes in our business is we spend too much time staring at the dashboard, or it's like we're flying an airplane instead of driving a car, where we have all these indicators there and we just have too much information. And so what I'm going to talk about a little bit today are some indicators and also maybe some consideration as to how frequently or infrequently we look at some of these indicators and some of the reports that come from these indicators. So key performance indicators. Basically, these are just a few different items that we'll look at. Some of them we'll look at daily, some of them weekly, some of them quarterly, and others annually. So the key performance indicators that we look at daily, there should only be just maybe 2 or 3 indicators that we look at every day. Just like when we get into a car, generally we look and see how much fuel do I have in the tank, and then when we're driving, how much speed. I don't stare at the dashboard. If I were to stare at the speedometer the entire time I was driving and not looking at the road, I would probably crash. Remember the first time that I went out driving with my uncle. I just had received my permit, and my uncle had gotten into the car with me. And one of the very first pieces of advice he said is we were actually in Lansing, Illinois, not too far from here, and we were driving down the street, and my uncle noticed that I was looking too much at the dashboard. And he said, Josh, you need to look up. Look at the cars in front of you. Watch where you're going. Occasionally glance down, look at your speed. Eventually you kind of get a feel as to the speed of the car. But don't spend all your time looking down. Make sure you spend most of your time looking out, looking around, looking for what's going on around you. And the same thing is true in our business. So there should only be a few indicators that we're looking at daily. And some of these daily KPIs are going to really kind of result in kind of a gauge on the actual work being performed, to see kind of where we at on a progress end. And so some of these indicators also may include your daily revenue numbers, your work in progress, your percentage of completion on a project. Okay, so if you have kind of a larger project, where are we at are we to the point that we need to be on this project? Did we get the work done that we needed to get done in the prior day? So just a few different indicators, maybe revenue, cash received, cash dispersed. You may look at your bank balances or your receivables level. So just a few indicators, and these indicators really are going to be indicators that are important for not only your business and the type of business that you have, but also whatever goals you're trying to reach. So these indicators aren't just simply, okay, I'm selling real estate, so these are the indicators I have to look at. So the daily indicators are really going to be built for you and to try to drive you to the goals that you have for your business. So they need to be relevant to the type of business that you have and also relevant to the goals that you're trying to reach. So these daily KPIs, just 2 or 3 items that you're going to look at daily. Your weekly KPIs may include such items as your accounts receivable past due, your accounts payable past due. And also these would include your lead generation indicators, which are your lag indicators. So one of the mistakes that we see quite often is these are the indicators that people end up looking at daily instead of looking at weekly. So they look at these lead generation indicators. I'm not going to go into depth on what those are. If you're in business and you have lead generation indicators, you know what I'm talking about. But basically, it's best to look at these weekly, to give these a little bit more time, to get a little more data. Because when if you're staring at this data day in and day out, it can result in micromanagement and ineffective decisions. So you need to have a little bit more data to make effective decisions. That's why I would suggest that you only look at these weekly. Your monthly indicators, your monthly reports, you're going to look at your P&L, your balance sheet, your cash flow statement, bank statements, your bank reconciliations. These would be looked at monthly. Quarterly, you want to get in a little bit more into your quarterly financials and also your comparative financials and also your trending matrix. Your trending metrics. You'll want to look into your trending metrics and see are you trending the way that you're wanting to trend throughout the year. Once again, if you're kind of looking at trending on a daily, day by day basis, it's like stepping on the scale every day. Okay, you'll see that you're up and down a little bit every day, but it's gonna get you frustrated. But if you go through and you look at it over at a longer period of time, maybe monthly, then you'll see, okay, am I truly making progress? And then annually, you want to look at your budget to actual spend. Definitely, you want to look at your budget to actual spend. You'll want to do that on probably on a monthly basis as well. But really, as you get your budget to actual in order to prepare the next annual budget. And then when we talk about tax planning, of course, as a tax professional myself, this is something generally we'll do with our quarterly on a quarterly basis with our clients. But definitely, as we move into the end of the year, we'll get into tax planning and we'll look at the client's goals. We'll also look at the indicators in their business to see what sort of tax planning that we need to do, and this definitely should be done on an annual basis. So take KPIs, indicators we need to be looking at. Some of them we look at daily, some of them monthly, quarterly, or annually. Hopefully this was of some help to you. This is Josh Belk with the Belk on Business podcast. I would encourage you to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Have a wonderful day.